topic will be From Pandemic to Pan-Academic, what can a virus teach us about teaching the law? So I hope that my presentation will be a kind of introduction, a more general talk that will pave the way for the more country-specific and even university-specific presentations that we have later on. I'll be my own timekeeper, so I'm starting my phone and jumping into the presentation. So I should first try to explain my title. I think all of us, we are all too familiar with this sign and this warning: maintain social distance, stay 6 feet apart or 2 meters if you, like me, were brought up in the metric system, and especially don't gather in a classroom. So when we had this warning during the pandemic, I think all of us remember that day when we realized that we couldn't go to class anymore. And we switched to online learning. Pretty much all universities around the world tried to do that and started using the existing infrastructure and improve upon it on the go. Teachers and students and administrators learned to be online and function online in really no time. So of course, this experience of the pandemic and going online has been tough, and there are challenges, of course, but I think we should all take a second to just congratulate ourselves for continuing to learn and continuing to teach, even under such a big challenging moment. So I define this kind of education, this kind of experience that we had as pandemic education. It has been said for the economy, the pandemic economy. It has been said for the office space, or the pandemic office space, actually Zoom. And we can also use it for legal education. It was an emergency drill, a contingency situation, and we kind of tried to make the best out of it. Now, the pandemic, of course, is not over. We all know that, but we're probably less scared, and we do have a little bit of experience behind us. So it's a good time to take stocks and try to see what we can learn for the future, for a future without COVID-19, hopefully. So I use this kind of play on words, pan-academic, where pan means all-encompassive and comprehensive, to mean that we should learn something from this pandemic and try to make legal education encompass all aspects of our society, of our way of life. And I think that to be adapted to our time, legal education needs to include online experiences. I think we cannot deny that true anymore after what we have seen and what we have done during the pandemic. Of course, the question is, how do we do it? And how do we make sure that everybody, all the students, have access to the internet? But there can be no doubt that it's a positive thing to include online experiences in law curriculums. Let me just now address some elephants, some questions that you may have, or some ideas that you may have about my presentation that are maybe not true, so let's just get them out of the way. Does she want online legal education forever? Like, hasn't she had enough, or talking to a screen and record lectures? Of course, that's not what I'm arguing for, even though, of course, we had fully online degrees before and we will have them later, and that's not the point. What I'm trying to advocate for here is a much broader reform of legal education, which may include fully online degrees or fully offline degrees as well. So she's talking about blended learning. Yeah, in a way, I'm talking about blended learning, and the only thing is that I'm maybe not entirely comfortable with the expression blended learning, and I just want to spend a couple of minutes try to explain why. So I think everybody can relate to the picture that we're seeing on the screen, that's someone having an experience of online shopping. I do not claim that everybody on the planet has access to the internet and can have that, but I think we should aim to live in a world where this is possible. So with this basic understanding that everybody should be able to, go online and do their grocery shopping, I think we can say that online or legal education shouldn't be any different. And not because legal education is just a good or a grocery that you can go online and buy, but because actually all aspects of our lives have a blended dimension. They function partly online and partly offline. We live in a blended world in a way. So why should legal education be different? Why should we confine legal education to the physical space? And the reason why I think it's important to maybe drop the expression blended learning, it's because when we will try to implement reforms, substantial reforms, and include online learning in all our curriculums, there will be resistance. And the people who will resist that, because the legal world is a place where, generally speaking, we don't like change. So the people who will resist this kind of new approach to legal education will be a little bit skeptical about the idea of blended learning, of switching to something that is not completely learning, but it's some blended learning. Is it reliable? I think we should actually highlight that this is how our society works, and if we want to educate the lawyers of tomorrow, we just have to do it in a way that is consistent with the way we live. So with this basic understanding in mind, I'll go into the 3 lessons that I think we can learn from this pandemic. And I had 5 lessons when I submitted my abstract. But thanks to discussion with colleagues, and especially with Professor Maniadis, our director at BICO, I was able to reduce that to the very core and just have three lessons, but very important ones, I think. So the first thing that we can learn is that leveraging the power of the internet enriches our students' educational experience. And I think this is also something that is true, that we learned, that we experienced during this pandemic, and we shouldn't be we shouldn't deny that anymore. Some examples. We could allow our students to access online classes from other universities in other countries. And of course, this could be done for a small number of credits, but it could give our students the opportunity to be exposed to different legal systems and to different university systems without incurring the costs and the logistics of moving to another country. And also, we could allow our students to take online classes for new disciplines that maybe are not taught at the local university. And to do all this, we need, of course, to establish partnerships. There's one already that is being created in Europe among the most important universities in the social sciences. But we need more, and we need to be flexible when it comes to credit transfers and all these kind of things. But it's possible, and I think would be beneficial for the students. Another example that is rather close to my heart, I really hope to teach this class one day, or maybe next year, is having, for example, a comparative civil procedure module where students could actually experience virtual hearings from courts around the world. During the pandemic, courts used virtual hearings, and it was not ideal, but some of the courts are actually saying that they will keep using virtual hearings in some instances, especially for procedural hearings that only, it's not worth to get everybody to court just for that. But it could be interesting for the students to just experience that in many different legal systems. And also via some extracurricular activities, such as moot courts that happened virtually this spring, and remote internships, as they are offered, for example, by the European Court of Justice. Students may start to learn how to cooperate with colleagues that are based elsewhere and with whom we just interact through the internet. And I think this is something that they will have to learn for when they will join an organization, and it's a good thing that they start learning in law school. So that's for the first lesson. Second lesson that we can learn is that finally we need to address the hard questions about reliability and ethical use of information. This has been around for a long time. I think everyone as teacher has been confronted with the unethical or unreliable use of information by our students. And I think we should address the questions without thinking that the teachers have all the answers. I think it should be an open discussion with the students to go into very specific cases and try to understand together where do we draw the line. And this is of course important for during the law school time, for their home assignments and remote exams, of course, but it will also be very important for when they join the professional world, because as lawyers in their own organizations, probably they will be confronted with instances of unethical use of information, and they will be the one as lawyers to have to put the foot down and say, this is not okay. And if they had this background in law school, this discussion, they know where they come from, they will be much more confident for doing that as well. And for my last lesson, number 3, legal education must include meaningful offline experiences, where offline experiences are defined as human-to-human interaction in a physical space. So the old way, like we did things before the internet. And this is very important, I think, because the teachers of today are the last generation of teachers that will remember how they used to work without the internet. I think I pertain to one of the youngest generation of teachers. Millennials still remember how it used to be without the internet, and we have spent a significant amount of time interacting, for example, with teachers without using the internet. And I think this is a gift that as the last generation of teachers that knows a lot about that, we should give to our students. And I think this is very important also because we know that there will be skills and tasks that won't be automated very soon. We hear a lot about how lawyers will be replaced by machines, and to some extent, the work that we do could be done by a machine, but it's common knowledge that emotion, the use of emotion and the understanding of emotion and of context, it's something that machines cannot do right now. A machine can factor in a lot of different factors, but if the context changes, it's not able to adapt, that only a human can do that. And these kind of skills are not built just sitting behind the screen. We have to make our students actually experience this in the physical world. So how do we do this? Group discussions in class, oral examinations. I'm a fan of oral examination, I have to say. Moot courts, the real ones, the physical ones, and public speaking exercises. I took a class of improv while I was training for the bar admission in France. And I know this is France, but I think it was really great because we pictured a lot of real life situation between a client and a lawyer, or a judge and a witness. And this was really, really interesting. A last point, I think here we shouldn't be listening to the students, because the students generally say that they really like interaction online, that they participate more because they don't feel shy, and etc. But I think this is where teachers know better, and we should just take them out of their comfort zone and force them to train those skills, because that will be very important in the future. So I think this concludes my presentation, and thank you for the attention. Now,